So, I'm going to, I don't want to say wedding crash, but I guess wedding crash. Robb Beams is out here teaching a class. So I'm going to show you guys some raw footage. He's an evil scientist. He knows a lot about what he's talking about. So if you can stick around, you're definitely going to learn something. Starts right now.
Fatigue when you're not tired, so it seems like a really unnecessary conversation. And now 24 hours later, if you guys were to take pictures of yourselves, you could just see the energy levels going down, which is expected, right? Where are we going to be tomorrow afternoon at this time? This is why I asked you to please be patient with what we're doing, because you get to a point in a program like this where you need to apply the skills we're discussing, but you're also bringing residual fatigue that's going to negatively affect your ability to execute them, which then increases your risk of injury. And we cannot be remiss on that subject, because it's always there, it's always lingering on us, but sometimes we get a little complacent, like, well, I can do it. Well, really, can you do it? Like, for example, that last corner we were working, and when we stopped and had you guys watch where Hopper was going, and I kind of put this up here, it's a little continuation of what we were talking about yesterday. When we first, remember how we were talking about you come off that, let's call it that triple, and there was those entrance stutter bumps, and then this is where we were talking about inevitably someone gets on the gas, and then that creates a hump, and then we're on the gas, and then that G-out just gets worse and worse. We've discussed all day yesterday when we started with the bike on the stand, anything that the bike does, there's an equal and equivalent reaction to, right? So if you G the suspension out here and then it unloads you, then you land here, where does it mess you up the most? Over here on that next jump. Because you guys were almost tiptoeing over that jump because the bike wasn't stable enough. And when you saw Johnny come in, what he did was, and there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to discuss this particular corner. When Jones was out there, I was trying to get you to see he was coming in super, super fast entry speed. But when that G's out, the bike completely unloads. His exit speed here, now Jones, relatively speaking, is still fast even when he hits the jump. I'm not saying that. But if you look at where Hopper came in, comes here, squares it off and goes there. The timer from here to here, guarantee Johnny's 2 seconds faster. If I was a gambling guy, I'd say he's faster. Okay, anybody guess why? Irregardless of this.
Shortest distance.
Exactly. Johnny just said, all right, you're going to take the long way around. Well, I'm going to take the shortest way from point A to point B. Why is that important? Remember I said yesterday you have to have a portfolio of options. It's not a one-shoe-fits-all. You can't be a monkey-see, monkey-do guy. Because
you need an option.
You've got to have options, but we don't go out and practice options. And then we get in a race and we're frustrated and we hurt our knee and we do all kinds of other things. Remember what I said, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, but you've got to practice with purpose. That's why I want you to always be stepping back and asking yourself, what is it that we're trying to accomplish, okay? When we're trying, and this is why I appreciate you guys coming in and let's get into a classroom environment so you're not distracted, you're not watching the guy ride, you're listening. We started today with a section that was nothing but 3 right-handers and a left-hander, right? I guess it'd be 2 right-handers and a left-hander over that double. Well, what were you guys riding yesterday? One of the slipperiest corners probably known on the face of the earth, right? And then you get the luxury of going out in something that's got a built-up embankment, it's got lines, there was some moisture in the dirt. A couple of you came over and said, man, the track's like in primo condition. It's wet. I don't understand that.
Well, and I want to, like, when we first went out there, it was so wet. That line sucked. You could not take it. And that's the thing is you look at like Carmichael and some of these other guys, they always were looking for, okay, when this goes bad, because they always will, because the track's changing, where am I going to go when that's nasty? And they already have a second option ready to go. And as it dries, it's almost like they dare each other, the first one to try it. And as soon as somebody does it and it works, you'll notice the main line just moves over there.
Now, something else, go ahead, brother.
So I'm doing what you said. I'm clicking up in the fourth. I'm trying to, and it did help because I noticed I could get on the gas coming out of the apex, and the bike wasn't disrupting. My question is, coming up to that kind of little wall jump, fourth is pretty tall, and I caught myself, even not even trying, I was way overshooting it. So the speed is obviously better, because I can tell you right now, I had to really check up on that wall jump.
Sure.
even though it didn't feel faster, which was weird.
Yep.
I felt slower, but I know I was going faster.
Which is what you want.
So my question is, in a section like that where you are coming in with a ton of speed and you want to keep the bike in a higher gear, where do I downshift at that point?
Are you standing or are you sitting?
I started standing, as you saw,
Mhm.
and then when I was trying to cut inside, I started sitting.
Okay, and the reason why I'm asking
I
if you're
still-
standing or sitting, because think about the dynamics of where your feet are at.
Mhm.
If I'm standing and you're coming through here and you're talking about downshifting right before the jump,
Well, I'm asking where.
that's what I was going to say. You know you're going to want to downshift because when you go up and over that, you're going to want to be that lower gear to really accelerate the backside of this jump. If you're standing, you literally just tap it down right at the base of that jump.
Right, okay.
Now, if you're sitting, gets a little bit advanced. This is more level 2 stuff. If you're sitting, remember you've got your leg out, right? Well, you're not going over this on one peg.
Right.
So as you make your way back to hitting the peg, you're downshifting as you bring your foot to the peg. It's a very finesse thing to do.
Clicking it with like your heel almost.
Exactly. It's almost like as you're bringing your foot from, because you're got it up against that inside shroud, as you're bringing it back, it's like tap.
It's kind of like a...
Almost like the upshift from the start.
Just the opposite of
I
the
always
start.
That's awesome. I never thought of
Like
that.
I've,
Wow,
I've
that's cool.
hit that jump where I've gone off with one leg kind of up, and as you put your foot on the peg, like it's one motion, just click.
So you're going from fourth to third in the air? Okay. I could do that too. I was just curious.
No, these are great questions because as we go out and we work, because we're going to move into jumping, one of the things with the jumps is if you hit the face of the jumps and your bike's already signed off, can anybody guess what the bike's going to do in the air? If you hit that and you're already signed off, this is why we started yesterday by encouraging you to be one gear taller. Most of the young riders, when they hit a jump and their bike's already signed off, as soon as it leaves, it immediately wants to do this. It's just law of physics and inertia. So that's why I can sit and preach, try to gear up before a jump. That's a dangerous thing to do. Just get you to gear up going down the straightaway, hit a nice simple like we were doing yesterday, double, double, double. Every one of you that geared up, where'd you end up landing? Short or far? Did you come up short or did you land far?
Farther.
All right. So if all of a sudden now we're trying to get you to get over a jump, which segues us to the jump, you've got to pull your RPMs down.
To answer your question, I was in fourth gear that whole section.
Did you
I-
downshift in the air?
I downshifted in the air once I apexed the corner and over the little like wall jump. Because if I'm in a higher gear, the suspension is moving more freely. If I'm in a lower gear, I'm going to have a lot of engine braking, and that's going to tie up my suspension. And if there is more bumps, it's not going to move as well.
So if we're looking for ways to get, because we can talk about the physics of a motorcycle and we can talk about the physiology of you as a rider, but when those two don't mesh together, no pun intended, it's more of a yin and a yanging, well then you're just fighting the bike and then you get frustrated because you're like not progressing. Where are you not progressing? Is it bike setup? Is it fitness? Is it not understanding physics of the motorcycle? Is it not understanding that when this G's out, you create a tremendous amount of confusion in the suspension? The way Johnny was explaining, coming up and over the wall, this is what we alluded to yesterday. Remember what I said? I want you to get in the mental mindset that the front brake is for slowing the bike down and the rear brake is for creating stability with the suspension. What Johnny just say about the wall? Did we not mention that yesterday? People don't have questions, so don't feel like we're isolating you out. We want to make sure that you get everything out of it as well. What is it that you guys, and I don't want Dad to speak for you, but what is it about the jumps right now that spook you?
Not being able to see what's over the jump.
Okay.
So like on that finish jump, I
Yeah.
know it's over it, so I know how fast I need to go.
Okay.
On those doubles, they're just like so steep.
Yeah,
I can't see. I don't know how far I need to go. I don't know where to put the bike.
perfect. How about you guys? You have anything similar to that?
I just want to be more comfortable in the air,
Okay.
not panic.
No, that's a good term for it. Do you feel like you're just along for the ride, or do you feel like you can actually move the bike, or how do you feel?
Like half and half.
Okay. All right. How much so, buddy?
Just getting overcome the fear, just like being able to do it.
Let me ask you this, without sounding sarcastic. What are you afraid of?
Crashing.
What are you afraid of associated with the crash? No, there's no right or wrong answer. I want to know what's inside your brain.
The lip kicking me sideways.
Okay. So if it kicks you sideways, you hit the ground, it kind of spooks you a little bit. Okay. The reason why I asked the question and drilled down on that is all of us have the exact same fears, buddy.
Sit on my good-looking bike. That's all.
It's a white it's a orange
It's
KTM.
an orange.
I
Wait,
mean,
an
it is
orange
an
Husky?
It's an orange Husky.
Oh,
Is what I'm trying to say.
I thought yours was a white
Yeah.
KTM.
So always what I was told is, you know, my attack position is I'm squeezing and my butt is a little bit, I've got like a pelvic tilt. So my butt is out. This is where I'm going to spend the majority of the time. And then when I go to brake, I'm going to be back on the bike. And I'm still going to have enough, I'm going to be squeezing hard enough to where I'm not holding on. Because if I'm holding on a lot, my forearms are pumped, the fascia and everything, you're going to get blood in there. You're not going to be able to use these controls. I don't know if you guys have ever had arm pump to where you're like, you know what, I'm not even going to use the front brake anymore because I'm so tight. So, and this helps immensely when you're braking. So when you're braking, you're going to be far back on the bike. When you're accelerating, you're going to be forward on the motorcycle. And that's going to... What?
Turn to angle your foot on the
Yep,
bed.
yep. You're going to want to angle your feet so that you're not touching it. There's some riders that will use this as a foot peg. It's a technique, but it's a bad habit to get into. You should always be here. And when you're not using it, you're going to want to be on your toes. Because if you're here and your feet are down, well, if I hit a big deep rut, if you can see that my heels are going to be back. So I want to be up here and I'm going to get through some of the ruts. But this is my attack position, this is my braking position, and then accelerating.
You see how quick his feet pop back and forth to toes and back? That's a higher level technique that you guys will get to eventually. I would think Brydon's already there. I think you're already there. Or, I'm sorry, Brydon, not Brydon. Brydon's already there.
Sorry.
But no, go ahead.
What a good drill for me is just practicing from when I'm, you know, okay, I'm braking and then I'm getting back. You want to make it one fluid motion. You're not going to be like, okay, now I got to move here. You're not trying to make it all choppy. It needs to be fluid. And then in the air, I see a lot of guys, they've got their front wheel high, and what they try to do to get that front wheel to go down is they pull the motorcycle to them because they're trying to pull their body forward. So what ends up happening is they actually pull that front wheel up because there's nothing holding that motorcycle down. So if you're pulling that motorcycle to you, the front wheel is going to come up. And the way to not do that is literally, it's in your hips. You're just going to move forward, just like you're on the stand. So if that front wheel's high, you just need to move forward. And in the air is one of the times where you don't need to be squeezing super hard. This is the time for everything to relax. You know, when people are really stiff in the air, it's because they're trying to hold on real tight. They're holding onto the bars real tight. Front wheel's high. They try to bring themselves to it and they're just pulling that motorcycle up.
That's one of the only times where you can let your hands loose to get that feeling of death. If you do have like a hard grip on the bike because you're nervous about things, when you're in the air, that's the time to relax. It's the time that is the most scary when you're learning. Well, once you get good enough, that's the time where you're like, a jump, a big jump. I get to relax. I get to take a breath. I get to look forward and just think about things like that while you're on the track. Think about the spots where you can rest, where it's not a big deal to, you know, let loose.
If you're centered on that bike, the bike's weightless. This is a 200+ pound bike. In the air, it won't feel that way if you're in the proper position. If you're in the wrong position, it's going to feel heavy because you're going to be pulling the wrong way.
So I want you guys to always think about, it's not about, you know, he's grabbing the foam roller while we're talking. See, you guys did a great job. You brought tennis balls. Okay, when we get done with our session this afternoon, we're going to jump into some soft tissue. Why would I do it now and not yesterday?
Because we're more tight today.
That's right. The muscles are now going to say, ooh, because you could have done that. This is the dangerous part. I gave you the example yesterday. You could get into a situation where young riders in particular will say, I don't need to foam roll because it doesn't hurt. I shared that example with you yesterday. Well, why is it that you're not hurting? Because you have been foam rolling. So you want to keep foam rolling we always wait, and I say always, majority of the time as humans, we wait till something's broken, then we want to fix it. In the performance world, you're always trying to stay ahead of that curve so that you don't have it lock up on you. You're in a points race, the championship weekend comes, you tweak your back, and then you don't win the championship, not because of capabilities, but because of a tight back.
It's
Okay?
not fun.
It's not fun at all. And so if I had you do the trigger point with the ball yesterday, you'd be like, yeah, I feel a little bit. You're going to be feeling a lot more today. And you'll be feeling it even a lot more tomorrow. Okay? And it's going to be even worse on Monday. And on Tuesday, you're going to be even worse. Why is that? What's the rule?
48 hours.
The rule of 48, right? So what you did yesterday, you'll feel Sunday. What you did Friday and Saturday, you'll feel Monday. What you did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're going to feel all the way up to Wednesday.
People don't realize being an athlete, you're always hurt. You're always sore. You're always something. It doesn't feel good to be in shape, not all the time.
No, you're
Until
exactly
you can go out on the track and put it to work.
And this is
and
where I
show
hope
it.
you're seeing what I said yesterday about self-accountability and responsibility. I want you to have fun. If you don't want to be the top racer in the sport, that's cool. This sport's still for you. Have a blast, have fun, learn the discipline, learn the dedication to it, have fun with it. There's nothing wrong with that. When I was teasing yesterday about, hey, if you don't want to do this, find another sport, what I meant on that is if you're not going to pay attention to small details, you can get hurt really bad. If you want to just be lazy in golf, you're probably not going to get hurt too bad. You get lazy in this, you could wad yourself up. That's the only thing I was trying to insinuate, and I apologize if I gave any other message.
You go to the
Okay?
left hand? No problem.
No, you're good.
So the thing that I want you guys to keep in mind is, like you just said, Brydon, it's kind of a double-edged sword because the more you use the body, the more maintenance it requires, but then the more maintenance has got to be met with more work. Because if you want to get stronger, the only way that a muscle grows and gets stronger is it's got to be submitted to load, fed, recovered, and you're going to wake up stronger.
Sounds like a race bike.
Well, and it's funny you say that, Johnny, because that's what we were saying yesterday. When we have that motorcycle on the stand, every rule that applies to a motorcycle applies to us. And I could teach you yesterday, you didn't come out of the womb understanding clickers. You didn't come out of the womb understanding how to use a gear shifter and a clutch lever, but you know how to do it now. But yet I say to you, hey, are you properly hydrated? People go, oh, he's using big words, I'm out. How hard is it for you guys to get hydrated? What's the formula? Boom. You guys are hydration experts.
10 hours.
All right? Over 10 hours. What is it that we look for in addition to that to see if you're properly hydrated?
Your weight.
Sweat rate. Bingo. You guys are hydration experts. Go take the world on. Okay? The idea here is you guys walked in yesterday not understanding the importance of hydration, and then we started talking about the 2 dry sponges, like scouring pads. And yesterday it was really warm, so we're like, oh yeah, I don't like heat. But when it's a little bit more comfortable, we're like, oh, hydration, whatever. It's not so hot. See, just like that, we're humans. Which is why I brought up the word complacency yesterday. I'm not calling you complacent derogatorily. You know what to do, but because the temperature deviated, you go, yeah, it doesn't matter, so you don't step on the scale. But then you call me on Thursday, and your calves are cramping, and you're not sleeping, and you've got a headache that you haven't been able to get rid of for 3 days, all because you're dehydrated. Okay? When we come back from riding this afternoon, some of you guys, and I appreciate you guys bringing those tennis balls, some of you guys, I want you to try it. Take your thumb, put it right at the base of your hairline, and press against that occipital bone. See if you don't feel any kind of tension in there. Okay?
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and keep going along the hairline. All right? The reason why I want you to think about it is I've been asking you for 2 days now to look up. So as the neck gets more and more work, this is called SCM. You ready for a really monstrous word? It stands for sternocleidomastoid. So when you see somebody when they do that, we call it the sleeve stack when they, all those muscles make up your SCM. Okay? When you're out there with your helmet, you don't think it's any big deal, right? If you've ever seen a little infant, little head bobbling, yeah. Well, you're wearing your helmet plus velocity and you come up short on something. What does that do to the muscles in the back of your neck? This is where the definition of whiplash comes in. You're sitting in a car, someone hits you from behind, the energy takes your hips and moves it forward and your head snaps back. That's why you see them wearing the donut ring, because they've stretched all these muscles in your neck. You go, well, how's it relevant to what we're doing? Because you're wearing a freaking helmet going fast. If you don't think taking the tennis ball and getting it at the base, like where you're on the roller right there, you could take that roller right to the base of the head and then just rotate your head back and forth. We're going to go through all this later, but remember what I tried to say to you yesterday? I'm going to explain something to you first, and then you're going to experience, and you're going to come back and go, oh, now it makes sense. Because if we do it the other way around, you're like, okay, yeah, we played around with tennis balls. Yeah, no, we didn't. Because we're going to clean out your scapulas, and we're going to get your head. Because when you call me and you're like, dude, I've got a major headache, first thing I'm going to ask you is, are you properly hydrated? How do I know if you're properly hydrated? Bless you. How do I know if you're properly hydrated? Urine should be relatively clear. How do I know if you're not getting enough protein?
Dark yellow.
In the smell, right? So you look at that and you go, hey, it's dark yellow. Give the toilet a little bit of a whiff. You smell that ammonia. You know that you've cannibalized muscle tissue. You guys laugh about it, but trust me, when you're sitting at day 3 at Loretta's and you've got a championship on the line and you're pissing rust color, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Because I'm immature.
Pardon me?
I said I only laugh because I'm immature.
Same. I just imagine somebody at an outhouse that everyone uses trying to sniff it.
Well, can you imagine your
I never knew all
Yeah.
that stuff. This information is so amazing.
Chris, what are you doing?
I've already felt
Sniffing my urine.
Just checking my
Pour it
urine. I
in a
promise.
Gatorade
Well, the
bottle.
crazy
Yeah.
part is somebody's going to ask you, hey, what did Rob go over? And you're going to be like the CBS special that only focused on ice cream. He wants me to smell my urine. I know. That's what I'm going to get known for, right?
We wouldn't go to bed.
Yeah.
Hey,
all that's going on
on YouTube is about smelling
Yeah,
pee.
yeah.
PP
And that's the thing that I want you to understand is I try to drop these nuggets continuously and then wrap back around on them, because now that you're getting a little bit more tender, when I talked to you yesterday about the importance of balance, because strength without flexibility is useless and flexibility without strength is useless when you're moving a gyroscope.
Or where you're just off axis. Are you guys familiar with bull riding?
We
Yeah?
know what it is.
Okay. So in a bull rider, you never see a bull rider get on the back, right? No, because you'll die. They throw you off. You just don't want to be there. That's this part of the bike too. So if you ever do have jumps where you're taking off when you're sitting, always stay where Johnny is right there. Once you hit right here, you're putting your life in your own hands.
Johnny, mention using your legs as another form of suspension. As far as being
Soaking
super
stuff. Going into-
stiff, and if you learn to flow on the face of the jumps instead of being super stiff, you don't feel the feedback of the face of the jump.
So this is kind of like getting into BMX stuff, but again, that tack position, you're on like straight up and down on the bike, you're going to pelvic tilt that down, and this is going to be pretty much the standard attack position that you're going to be riding in the majority of the time. And then what people, as far as preloading and soaking up, the first level of scrubbing a motorcycle is not turning it sideways. It's literally soaking it up. You're using your body as suspension. You're not pulling the bike to you, you're going to it. So on the face of a jump, you know, like here's the jump, you're going to start transitioning right at the bottom. Right when the suspension starts compressing is when you're going to it. You're not bringing the bike to you, you're going to it. So if you want to practice it, you're going to practice, you're on the motorcycle, pelvic tilt, squeezing hard, toes are pointed in. This is my riding position, this is my attack. All right, I'm going towards that jump, I'm soaking it up. I'm soaking it up.
This is techniques for you
That's
guys.
when you're-
You guys-
You'd be amazed.
Little guys don't worry about that yet.
This is when you're hitting the base of the jump.
And then are you going to kind of stand
So
with the
then,
bike?
so this is what happening is right at the base of the jump. Because you're going fast enough, it's going to happen quickly.
It comes to you. You'll feel the bike come to you if you let
so
it.
the suspension starts compressing, I'm going to it, and then I start coming off the jump. And so as I'm down here and I'm coming off the jump, I'm just going back into floating with the motorcycle. Floating with the motorcycle, relaxing. I'm not preloading. If I was preloading, it's kind of the same thing, and I can show you guys out on the track, but there's two ways to preload. There's the way to seat bounce, which is at the base of it. You're going to do that pelvic tilt again. You're gonna just try to get the back end to compress because it's gonna bounce up. But it's more of an advanced technique because a lot of guys compress, and then as opposed to stand back into that attack position, they compress and then they move forward, and then this is when you see those guys and it's really bad.
Your body should be an extension of the suspension.
So-
you have to work with it.
Seat bouncing is more of an advanced preloading technique, but seat bouncing is actually, you can get more lift from seat bouncing than you can from preloading, but it's slower because you get more lift. And if we're thinking about just lap times, well, you don't want height, you want distance. but seat bouncing is the easiest way to do that. The fastest way to do it and the easiest way to do it is compressing the suspension. And it's not like a bunny hop on a bicycle. I never could really bunny hop a bike very well, but on a motorcycle, at the base of that jump, you're going to push. So it's kind of the same where you're soaking it up, but here you're going to be adamant about pushing, and then you're not going to just move with the motorcycle. You're going to be squeezing to hold the motorcycle, and you're going to literally, I guess, trying to be bunny hopping it, and that's how you'll get.
This is what we were doing earlier when we had that section where you were trying to hop over and get to the downside instead of flat landing, Tony. That's the.
When we go out and we work on balance on a motorcycle going off the face of a jump, but you can't do it when we're sitting on a bike stand without velocity, then what makes me want to go out there and take you onto the face of a jump? I'm being very, very serious here, guys. If you don't show me that you're going to squeeze the bike, I'm not going to ask you to go jump a double. It's just that serious. I would be completely irresponsible to let that happen. Because if your knees aren't tucking the bike, that circle, as small as it is, remember what we said, here's your frame and shrouds, for every 1 degree that those inner thighs open up, that's more of a circle for a gyroscope to start going other directions. And this is why when you say you're afraid that the bike's going to go sideways, how do I correct it? Well, what did we say yesterday? Again, let's do a review. What do you do when the bike does this? What do you do when it goes like this? Okay, what do you do when it goes like this? Yeah, you better squeeze the daylights out of it and go, next time I'm not going to do that. Oh, well, my legs are fatigued. Well, then go to the gym. Okay? This is especially you young guys. You're like, well, I don't want to go to the gym. Well, then don't tell me that you don't want the bike to go sideways, because inertia doesn't know or like anything. Remember what we said, law of physics. If I drop it, it's guaranteed. When the bike goes sideways, it's a guaranteed. It's coming back faster than it went out. Just ask Marvin Muscan from last weekend.
And for you little guys, working out doesn't have to just be a grind. Go to the trampoline park and just jump for an hour.
Moms and dads.
Great excuse for that, right?
All right, so here's the key. Until you've hit puberty, I don't want them on load-bearing exercises, okay? Unfortunately, you're in a sport that's a load-bearing sport. You're gonna have to do more than most people. And I agree with Chris, trampolines are great. Like with a lot of our younger athletes, we play freeze tag on the playground because it's the acceleration, stop, pivot, accelerate. That's all anaerobic, it's all explosive power. When you're racing as an amateur, that's what you got. Okay, so the idea that you go and climb trees, you know, the fact that you can climb a rope, like you say, trampoline's an awesome one. Playing freeze tag, those doing push-up challenges, doing pull-up challenges, even for us as adults, make it fun. I agree with Chris 100%. And there's a couple people in here that are already on my program. I say to them all the time, you should never feel smashed on the program, ever. You definitely will get tired and worn down, but you should never get smashed. Okay. Thanks to Johnny, we're working with Chance Blackburn at the pro level, okay? And I send the schedule every week to Johnny as well. And Johnny's very nice. He sends me nuggets every once in a while. Man, I wish I had this when I was racing. And it's not about me, guys. I'm not even here. I'm trying to give you the Cliff Note version of where you're at and where you want to be. You were kind enough to say some things yesterday, and I really appreciate it, you know? But you guys have an opportunity. I appreciate you saying, I've never heard this before. You made that comment as well, and I appreciate it. But this is where it goes back to, you got to, that's why I challenged you before we left last night. What'd you do for breakfast this morning? How prepared did you come in? How much sleep did you get last night? And that's why I gave the analogy, or the example rather, when someone's like, well, I didn't get much sleep. Well, why is that? Because I was on Fortnite until 3 a.m. Well,
with Fortnite, would that be considered good hand-eye coordination for kids?
Only
I've heard.
Yeah, if you want to get the stationary bike, get your heart rate up, and then play Supercross on the video game while your heart rate's up, go for it.
I've heard stories of, like, back in the day, they asked Tim Ferry and people to play video games for hand-eye coordination. Is there any truth to this?
Is it truth that they did it? Yes. Was there any validity to it? Absolutely not.
So you're saying
your heart rate up though is different, right?
Well, but you're bringing a different challenge because you're challenging the ability to focus. That's not eye-hand coordination. Because eye-hand coordination is going to be directly influenced by blood sugar levels. When your blood sugar levels drop, if I throw a ball at you, did more fatigued and to lower your blood sugar, you're going to get hit in the face with the ball because you can't get your hand up quick enough. This is why I said to you guys, and I'm being as sincere as I can, That's why I'm up your behinds about eating and snacking and grazing. Because if you miss your marks out there, the ramifications are huge. We're not swinging a putter, okay? You're going into a corner, third gear, some of you guys are tacked. And all of a sudden you miss, remember where Johnny was coming in, he was squaring off? Can you imagine missing that by 6 inches?
Well, think about going down the road. Johnny's going about, I would say probably between 35 and 45 miles an hour around that turn. When you're driving down the road and you're at 35, just imagine jumping out of your car. It wouldn't feel good, but that's what it feels like.
Well, especially when you're trying to turn, and then you're mad, and I say mad at me, you're just mad in general, because you can't turn the gyroscope, but your legs are spread eagle, there's no finger on the front brake, the wheelbase is as far apart as can be, and you're staring at your front fender. Like you have the perfect Molotov cocktail to eat crap. And I'm not trying to be mean. It's like when I say you need to look through the corner, well, that's assuming that the legs are squeezing and the inside leg is up, and your gear is one higher, so the RPMs are lower. So now the law of physics on a motorcycle work for you. You take the physiology of the body and combine it with the motorcycle, as Johnny always says, become one with the bike. It's true. Now, and I gave you this example yesterday with the P-dubs. Watch how painful it is to watch them go through corners. Because they're on the gas, off the gas, on the gas, off the gas. So they tiptoe around the corner. It's physics at its finest, okay? And just a little side note on the helmets we were talking about and the muscles in your neck. In Australia, you're not allowed to ride with GoPros on your helmet.
What?
You're not allowed to ride. You're not allowed to ride with it because what they believe is that the GoPro, any mount on a helmet, will actually permeate the shell of the helmet. It won't let you use the chest straps like Johnny had earlier. Okay.
GoPro make your camera smaller.
Yeah. Now, you know, there's some people that say that's nonsense. I was working with a rider in Utah before I came here, and he can tell significantly when you put that on that helmet. Like to the point like he prefers not to. Okay. But I want you just to keep that in mind when we're talking about, you go, what's the big deal? When you get in a car accident, you know what those muscles are. Now that you guys are riding more, the trigger point in that tissue is going to make a lot more sense. Okay. And hopefully you'll be able to stick around. If not, we'll pick it up again tomorrow. But I'm going to show you a routine where literally you're going to take that tennis ball from the back of your head all the way to your toes. When you're driving in a car, if you're not the driver, you can be doing your feet when you're in the car. You can drop the ball in between your shoulder blades and get your shoulders cleaned out so that the scapulas move, the shoulder blades move. You could be sitting on it while we're sitting right here. You can be working all your glute muscles. You can get it underneath and get it in your hamstring. So that way when you're done with a busy day with school, work, and all your other responsibilities, that's 4 muscle groups and you don't have to still foam roll or do trigger point lift.
How's it feel?
Like you guys would laugh at me if you came to my office. And sometimes Chris has to correct me because I have an old wooden chair at my desk. And when I move, it sounds like an old house. Okay? But the reason why it's a wooden chair is because when I'm sitting on a tennis ball, I need that hard surface to smash that tissue in my hamstrings and my glutes. I know there's females in the room, so I apologize. Take your fingers underneath your butt and feel where that sit bone is at. You'll feel that bony process that you're sitting on. All right? Now go just below that. That's where your hamstrings attach. Take that tennis ball and put it right at that little, right where that little sit bone is at. Go right below it. That's the attachment of hamstrings. How many times have you heard somebody say, I have a high hamstring strain? Usually when a hamstring's going to tear, it's going to tear up towards the attachment. Okay?
Should have got his face.
Did you find it? Did you find it? Okay.
Found something.
That was really good. So as sensitive as that is, not only the location, and again, I apologize for the, right where those 2 sit bones are at, right in the dead center of it, I know that's some other, you know, body parts here, be very careful, but you've got, if you go and you look at, if you go into a cadaver and you look at those little muscles, those are the ones that will drive you nuts on the track. Because all those little muscles are attachments and or main primary movers or secondary movers. Remember what we said, every muscle has an origin and an insertion. So if you're trying to get into an anatomically correct position on the motorcycle and you can't, I want to know what's in the way. Do you not have the strength of your quads to keep your foot up? Or is there a hamstring to quadricep lack of flexibility where now you're bringing your leg up and your hamstrings are trying to pull them right back down? What happens when they start competing against each other? Core body temperature goes up, fatigue goes up, speed goes down. Who would think that silly tennis ball that's in your hands right now could translate to better body position on the track and faster speeds? Because of remember, you have skin, fascia in the muscle, they should all slide and glide. So if you're dehydrated and it sticks, you're not gonna have as good range of motion. You're gonna have more internal heat because of the friction, and that's gonna, what does heat do to a motorcycle? Increase or decrease its capabilities? We're no different. So if you know you're hydrated and you know you've got good range of motion, let's go talk about jumping. Let's go talk about turning. Let's talk about starts. Again, I'm going to keep talking about it and then layer back over on it, because by tomorrow afternoon, you guys have to take this to the street. Okay? It's easy for me to be out there and say to you, I could point at you, hey, get your leg up or one gear, but eventually this has to become second nature. Okay? Especially when you notice a difference. Are we taking lap times? No. Like Chris was just saying, you can see yourself screaming into that corner. We can tell what's going on. How do you notice it? Like when you saw Johnny come up to that wall and just, it's like those stupid obstacles in the Supercross, those walls. You know, that's what Johnny looked like. Just come in and then come up and then take off.
Oh, those stupid. I like those obstacles.
So I hope you guys are enjoying the little tidbits here and there of his 3-day camp. He has many other programs available if you just want nutrition. On his website, you've got CompleteRacingSolutions.com. He travels the country with camps, so just hit him up if you want more information about this. And I will leave with just a little bit more riding tips of me answering some questions from some of the riders, which he has at the track at all of his training camps.
What about when you land, being on the gas?
Absolutely, be
Always
on the gas.
land when you're on the gas, and always try to land both wheels at the same time. No front wheel or back wheel, front wheel, back wheel, wheels at the same time.
Okay.
And that's why
yet?
tabletops are.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut
No,
you
no,
off.
no.
Tabletops are great because you can adjust. You can go, all right, I went there, I landed there, I'm gonna go a little bit faster, I landed there, and then you'll eventually create it. Once you cut it out and it's a double now, that's where it gets scary. But us psychologically, we want to focus on the negative. You want to focus on the positive 100% of the time, because your body will do what you think it's going to do. But just a rudimentary, you stand on a motorcycle, tilt hips. This is going to be your attack position. You're going to always be looking forward. Braking is going to be back. Accelerating and cornering is going to be up front. So usually the drill that I've always done is just kind of be in a straight line, and I practice braking and accelerating, and then how to corner. As I get up, I make sure that I'm not on the controls, my feet are below, and then it depends on what direction am I going. Am I going left? So then I'll be in that attack position. I'm gonna brake, and then I'm gonna be on front of the motorcycle. I don't need to be on top of the gas can. What I see a lot of riders do is they'll just drop back down and sit down. Well, here, now you have no control over the bike, because the bike's gonna wanna stand up and go where it wants to go, because you're not controlling it from the front of it. So you want to be up here.
Too far away from it. I wanted to talk about the double. So a cheater way to figure out how far to go on a double jump is if you see a double and you see somebody who's jumping it, and you kind of know who's similar level with you, and you see them doing.
But what I have my athletes do is get those full-length mirrors that are real cheap, one in front of the bike and one on the side of the bike. If Johnny can sit and look at his position, muscle memory, muscle memory, muscle memory, and then when he's standing up in this attack position and he's by himself and he's like, do I have the tilted pelvis? Well, I can just look at the mirror to my left or my right and I can see. Why would I be so particular about a mirror? Because practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So if you don't know what a pelvic tilt is, and or don't have the strength and flexibility, it's just a nebulous idea that kind of floats away. You got to try and go, oh, Johnny's nuts, it doesn't work. It's physics, it will always work. That's the beautiful part about it. You've got 15 people here that will know versus 100 people that came today that may or may not know. And you guys, we weren't picking on people, but what did we see? You'd see Hopper come through, balls to the wall. You see Brydon come in, balls to the wall. Then you see some guys that tiptoe through the corner, but it's the same bike. Literally, there was a couple KTM 450s out there going through the same corner, but going at a whole lot slower. So when you say it isn't physics, what could it possibly be? Okay? didn't mean to interrupt you, but this is what we've been talking about for a day and a half now, how incredibly valuable this is. But without strength and flexibility, not to be redundant, this will be of no value to you. It'll just be a concept that the legendary Johnny Hopper showed you. That's
That's being sweet. Go for it.
So let's just say you're taking off on a jump, things go wrong, bike's going sideways, the wind's blowing. It's like, okay.
There's a lot of variables there, but I'm
So you're going left, you're going right, whichever direction. What's the procedure in your head? Like, where are you putting your body once the bike starts going one way?
That's more of an advanced and loaded question. That when something goes wrong like that, once it's happened hundreds, thousands of times, you learn how to react to it, and you don't go, oh shit, this is going to be bad. So typically, when the bike goes all sideways off of a lip of a jump or something, I go loosey-goosey, car crash, like I'm going to ragdoll it. Because then the bike is going to be free-falling, because in the air, I can't push off of anything. Like if you've ever been in the air and you see like the freestyle riders, they don't start, when they jump in the air, they don't then push away from the bike. It all happens when they're planted on the ground, where they've got friction between the ground and the motorcycle. So answering your question, if the bike was to go all sideways on me, my first train of thought is I'm going to let the bike flow, do what it needs to do. I'm going to grab the motorcycle, I'm going to go wide open, because just the law of physics, if I've got a giant gyro behind me and it's going to want to push forward, well, if it's out here and it's spinning, it's going to come back behind me. So I'm going to be wide open, and I'm going to let that motorcycle come back to me. And sometimes in a situation like that, there's a terminology where it says, can I even remember it? When in doubt, pin it, because you'll either crash
When in doubt,
harder,
pin it out.
or you won't crash at all. So typically, when the bike gets all crazy on you, you're going to pin the motorcycle, because the gyros are going to place it back and forward, and you're going to be loose on the motorcycle to allow it to go back. And as far as what he said, the wind, well, if it's real windy, that whole thing starts from the takeoff. If I know the wind is blowing me here, well, I'm not going to come off the jump straight. I'm going to come off the jump sideways. My weight's going to be towards there. So if the wind is blowing me this direction, I'm going to come off sideways. So the wind's going to blow me back to where I was going to land if I was going to come.
Like in this case, it's coming this way, you're going to jump off.
I'm going to always jump towards the wind, because if I jump towards the wind's going to blow me back. I'm not going to jump with the wind, because then I'm going to miss my landing. I'm not going to jump as if the wind wasn't there, because I'm going to jump up. Then you're going to see that scary crap happen where you're going to do like a pancake whip, and you don't want to do that, and you don't want to crash here. I'm going to drive through the wind, it's going to blow me back. Did that answer your question?
Something else, when the...
Good stuff. It's not
And
about
then-
landing sideways.
Yes. I do want to point out, for kids, you guys can use 2 fingers on... Do you guys use 2 fingers for your front brake and your clutch? That's okay. You guys are kids. But all the adults,
But learn now.
I would really want you guys to use 1 finger. I use my pointer finger for my front brake. I use my middle finger for my clutch, because it feels good. The only time I use 2 fingers is when I'm on the start, because I need to have more control over that clutch. So when I'm sitting there, I just need to have a little bit more feel. But the rest of the time, I'm using just 1 finger, because I don't need to have an amazing amount of control. And if you think about it, if you pull 2 fingers and you feel your muscles, you're using a lot more muscles than you are if you're just using just 1. And when you're coming about arm pump, the whole idea of riding a motorcycle is not with your arms. Your arms are just here. I don't even really know what your arms are here for, but this is, you ride a motorcycle with your legs, not your arms.
His head's behind his pelvis. He's gonna be all upper body to try to get back to a good position.
He broke the rule that we talked about. And guys,
Yeah.
when we come back from riding, and I'm going to have you bring the tennis ball and the foam rollers, when he talks about doing a pelvic tilt like that, that's not easy to do, and it's not easy to sustain. This puts a tremendous amount of strain. Remember the erector spinae group I showed you, those muscles on either side of the spine? Those are completely engaged. From the center of his chest, his sternum to his pubic bone, those are rock solid. Because remember what we talked about, this has to be solid. Well, if it's not strong, you can't create stability. And this is what, it becomes a compounding effect. Yes, this is my platform. This is what I try to advocate. But when you're watching pros do this and they make it look easy, you've got to have flexibility with strength. Does that not sound familiar on what we've talked about in the last day and a half? Strength without flexibility is of no value, and flexibility without strength is of no value. They've always got to be synergistic to one another. When you're talking about holding the bike with your inner thighs, remember we said the front of the legs have 4 muscles. That's why they're called quadriceps. There's 3 muscles on the back of the hamstring. If these 7 muscles are not working together, you're never going to squeeze. Whether you're on acceleration or deceleration, you're on struggle bus. Remember how I was talking to you when I showed you yesterday, if your heels go below the pegs, how it either works for or against you? Look how much Johnny's moving his feet around. And yes, he's got lots of experience. He can do it quickly. He can pop back and forth. That's muscle memory. But guess what? And we've got some people here with some banged up ankles. If your ankles are jammed up, you're only going to have more and more restriction on the inside the boot. So little things that we've been talking about the last couple of days, you don't realize how much work he's doing just to demonstrate this, just to hold that position. Yes, he's in neutral and he may not have his arms where he feels like Popeye, but everything else is working overtime. That's when I had Brydon do the static wall squat. When he's standing with pelvic tilt, quads tilting inward, it's like doing a static wall squat. And how many times do you stand up and sit down per lap? Stand up and sit down per lap, how many times? And so when Johnny pops up and he goes into an anatomically correct position and he does that 100, 150 times a lap.
Why would we be training that like the bike stand drill?
Well, and this is why I said to you yesterday, I believe a bike on a stand with your boots, knee braces, and pants in the garage for 30 minutes a day